Okay, and so now I'll share something. I hope it's up and available. Uh-oh, where is it? I think this is it. Aha, I guessed right. And Homer arrived just in time
Hi there, John.
to catch the beginning. Yes, hi, Homer. So look how timely, Homer. I'm starting just as soon as you arrive.
I know we're recording.
Okay, so I'm going to do a little light basketball to get into the heavy stuff of should we celebrate our 250th anniversary celebration. So here are the Valkyries. So the big question for the Valkyries, which are the female equivalent of the Golden State Warriors, the Valkyries are the Golden State Valkyries. Uh, and the big question is, could they ever duplicate the success that we've had? I mean, beginning in 2014, just our good fortune to have this too. Well, I'm going to say it's within the realm of possibility that the Valkyries have roughly no, maybe a half of Stef Curry in this Veronica Burton. Veronica Burton, first of all, I love Veronica, the name from Archie and Veronica from my comic book youth, but she's the most improved player last season. And her coach, Natalie Nakase, she was coach of the year last year in not only her first season, but the Valkyries' first season. They were an expansion team, and last year was their first year. And these two garnered these accolades. Uh, Now, Natalie Nakase, she is 5'2", um, and she was a walk-on at UCLA and eventually won a starting role. This is in the early noughts, and even was an honorable mention all conference player in 2002. So after she graduated, she went into the management of professional women's basketball at low-level jobs, eventually working her way up to assistant coach at Las Vegas. And when the Valkyries started, the Golden State front office were smart enough to grab her for the coach. This is Veronica Burton. She went to Northwestern. She's an expansion player, so she's 25. And the way they build expansion teams, existing teams are allowed to hold half their roster, but the other half of their roster it floats into a market that expansion teams can pull from. And so she was not valued in the top half of her former team. So the Valkyries were smart enough to grab her, and she fooled everybody by being the most improved player. So and how did they, in their first year, last year, they made it into the playoffs, emphasizing defense and three-point shooting. Sound familiar? Stef Curry. And avoiding turnovers. And Burton just fooled everybody by becoming a star guard. So this is the big four on the current team. In addition to uh, Veronica Burton, you have Kyla Thornton, who was an all-star last year, and you had a French woman, Salon. Is that how you pronounce that, Homer? Um, uh,
Probably
Janelle
Salaun with
Yeah,
the umlaut over the top there. Saloon.
saloon.
Saloon, and then Gabby Williams, who's become the leading scorer, and I'll say more about her in a second. Uh, so
Well, and one thing, John, when you listed the reasons for their success, you have to include enthusiastic support from the community.
that's
Aren't they?
that's
That's
coming.
coming. Okay.
Yes, but spot on, Homer, spot on, and we'll just say it, and I'll just say it plainly. They started selling out from their very first game, and it's because the Golden State Valkyrie front office was smart enough to promote the this new team in the gay community. So that's that. We've been to a couple of games, and they're a heavy presence there, and it's quite charming, quite charming. So Gabby Williams, she wears number one on her jersey, and she's also become the leading scorer, just nudging out Burton. And she's 29 years old, and she's a veteran. And she's this year, she wasn't here last year. This year is the first year in the off season. She became a free agent, and she wanted to come to uh, uh, Golden State. And so it's proof that becoming a Valkyrie is a attractive proposition. And it just reminds me, going back to the Warriors, Iguodala, um, nicknamed Iggy, also when he went into free agency, insisted he'd seen the Warriors play and the bench in the locker room, and he said, "I want to be with those guys." So this is Gabby Williams following the pathway of Iguodala. She's got a pedigree. She went to UConn. For those of you unfamiliar with women's college basketball, the University of Connecticut has been the reigning powerhouse for decades and decades. So that was a great pickup in the off season. Kyla Thornton, she's the veteran. She's 33, and she was all-star last year. And this is, I'm going to say a little bit more about Saloon because she is fascinating. She's become quite reliable. She's only 24, but she's 6'2", so she's a good
Wow.
size. And she's actually Guadalupe. I've been instructed that I don't say Guadalupe because that would be a Spanish pronunciation.
Well, she's actually Guadalupean.
Oh, okay, good. I'm well rebuked. Thank you. Um, and she played on the French team at the Summer Olympics, winning a silver medal. And the way they do athletics in France is she signed a professional contract at the age of 18. So you don't get that college seasoning that you get here. Um, and the Valkyries were smart enough to lure her away from Czechoslovakian and Italian teams. Uh, and in her very first season last year, and the Valkyries' very first season, she was an all rookie member. And even though she's 6'2", her mobility allows her to be a complete player. She comes to this genetically. Her parents both played basketball. Her brother plays for the Charlotte Hornets, and she is of Guadalupean descent.
Well done.
Thank you. So, where is Guadalupe? And it's sitting out here just on the edge of the Caribbean. It's a French republic in the Caribbean. And there have been some famous events. I didn't know anything about it, so took a little tangent here. And there was a famous battle there fought with Britain in 1782. There was a slave rebellion there. Um, and we'll get it. Who might have inspired that slave rebellion? Well, it's our main topic for today, which was the American Revolution. So here are some women coming in to America on Ellis Island in 1911. And then this is the most exciting player I learned about. Uh, uh, she doesn't start. She's a backup to Burton, but she's got a very interesting biography. Taiwanese immigrants to Southern California, led Princeton to Ivy League tournament title, the third straight. Ivy League Player of the Year, Princeton Senior Scholastic Award, Sportswoman Trophy, and for us docs, her degree was in medical anthropology. So wow. I'm not quite sure what that involves, but I'd like to learn. Um, and then she got a bonus year. So she graduates from Princeton, and she still has a year of eligibility. It's a little bit like that a Cal football player, Francisco, who went to Indiana with this extra year and got a national championship and was drafted #1. So who drafted her? Who noted her and her possibilities? When UConn played Princeton, that coach that's been the genius for decades and decades, Gino Oriyama, he figured out that she would be the perfect addition for what his team needed. And with her at the guard, they won a national championship, March Madness championship. And so with this extra year, with this genius coach, she polished her game, became more of a point guard, really, facilitator, improved in many ways. So she's a real reliable backup. And she joined the Valkyries last year. And in the off season, so she just got back from Czechoslovakia playing 2.5 months. So she's not taking any time off, working on her game. I just lost somebody. They think I'm going to talk about basketball the whole time. Whoops. Uh, so, uh, uh, as Homer alluded to, the very first expansion team in the NBA to sell out every home game, and we know what marketing did for that. They finished above 500 in their very first season, which is the first time anybody's done that, and they made the playoffs. Okay, so now we're going to get to the main topic. Yeah, Bob.
I'm curious about Natalie Nakase. I just noticed that she's the daughter of 2 second-generation Japanese Americans. So that makes her, I believe, Sansei.
Sansei.
Oh, good. Good. Thank you. But was there, if you go further back, did her grandparents suffer from in the Second World War under the administration?
I do not know that. I do not know that. But Aiko will soon find out.
Okay.
Also, I'd like to make a comment about men's versus women's playing. Um, I think the women are much more interesting because they hit those baskets really well. The men are too busy bumping into each other. They're just racing across the court and they're banging into each other and they're always missing. Well, that's not right. But I mean, the women really, they just sort of calmly position themselves and shoot the basket and boom.
Yeah.
So a quick additional comment on Guadeloupe and Martinique, known together as the Sugar Islands for France. In the Treaty of Paris at the end of the 7 Years' War, France was given the option to choose which territory to give up, La Nouvelle-France, Canada, or the Sugar Islands. And because Sugar Islands then made so much money selling sugar, they chose the Sugar Islands over Canada. They gave up Canada. As a descendant of French Canadians, I still can't quite get over this.
That's hilarious. That's hilarious. Yeah, that's hilarious, and I'm really glad Aiko's converted and will follow the Valkyries with me.
The other curious thing about these French so-called possessions in the Caribbean and also to the east, just on the eastern coast of Canada, is there's still parts of France. They are not colonies
That's right.
They're independent. They are departments, or they're called overseas departments, and they are part of the voting system, the postal system, the whole thing. They're still part of France.
Like we don't do for Puerto Rico.
Yeah. Good point.
Uh-oh. Tyson will have something to say about that. Yeah, Tom.
Two questions for you. So where do they play their home games? And when you say sell out, how many seats do they sell?
So it's the Chase Stadium, and this is the genius of Golden State ownership. They got on board with getting an expansions team as soon as they could, because they own the Chase Center built, and now they've got two professional teams playing there year round. So it was a win-win-win-win situation. And 18,000, I think, is the capacity of
They
Chase.
sell 18,000 seats for the women's game?
Yes.
Wow.
So the San Francisco Castro area is quite large. Yeah, so that's really something. Yeah, Jim.
Well, the French colonies, and as someone pointed out, the United States colony of Puerto Rico. So I did a little research on the French colonies not too long ago, and French Guiana is another rather large department, and they're actually considered part of the European Union because of their department status with France, and they use euros. It's my understanding.
Wow.
Now, this group will be educated at some point, I promise, about sovereignty of Puerto Rico, or the lack thereof, and my aunt's incarceration thereby. But I'll leave that for another time.
Yes, the other time we've talked about for an awfully long time, Jim. So we're looking.
Well, we did Madagascar. He's up on me.
Oh, okay, fair enough. Fair enough. Madagascar will hold me off for another few months.
Well, my aunt's story is rather involved, and I need to do it right correctly.
All right. I appreciate your dedication to perfectionism. Uh, all right. So are we ready to proceed to historical politics?
Can I say something?
Yes.
I just looked up, Nakase's parents or grandparents if they were in the internment camps in World War II. And it might take a little bit of more research because it says you've got to go and look at the family history of documented people and all of this. And there's just not gonna, I guess it's not that readily available. Maybe they're not so proud of the record anyway. But so I'll look into this, but it's not readily available.
Okay. Well, we're hoping you don't find that our grandfather was a kamikaze pilot. Um, anyway, are we ready to move on? I love it, by the way, when we get real time research. That's super. That's what a study group is all about. Uh, and so here we are, July 4th, rapidly coming up. What plans are we making for July 4th? And I am gonna hit my punchline that I think there is something to celebrate. So I'm gonna make my case. Um, First of all, some people are not really with the program for pulling us all together to celebrate in unity, unsurprisingly. But Ken Burns, he made this wonderful documentary, which is really about the revolution from the bottom up. It's not superficial. Here are famous people and what they did. It's a nitty-gritty bottoms up, and it's full of violence. And he makes that clear. He is not gonna skip over that, and that it is an imperfect story. Of course, we're all familiar with his approach from his Civil War documentary, which was had photography, which this doesn't have. But he found plenty of ways to visualize what's going on. That's Pepper and I have had that common interest, and believe me, he makes it. Burns makes the American Revolution very visual without photography. And we all remember, in addition to the Civil War, baseball, jazz. Um, and he's quite a guy. So he was recently interviewed, and I really sought out. Okay, what does he think now after the last 6 months since he launched the American Revolution? And the next few slides are basically uh, the next few slides are basically Ken Burns um, uh, making his points on American Revolution, even incorporating the last 6 months, which wasn't in his documentary. That our failures and successes inform each other and nudge the country forward. I think well phrased. One of his favorite quotes from the documentary was from a surprise defeated German Hessian soldier who asked the question, who would have thought 100 years ago that out of this multitude of rebel in the United States could arise a people who could defy a king. And so it's Iko, it's 5:10. Um, and um, he gives a lens of perspective. He says, you know, our current dysfunction, we got to put it in perspective. We've survived three great crises. The big ones were the Civil War, the Depression, and the Second World War. Um, and now we're in a new challenge, which is that elections and the peaceful transfer of power are not happening. Um, and uh, and then the independence of the judiciary has been put into question. So sure, this is a crisis, but there have been bigger ones. And he points out that the American Revolution was like a civil war because you had loyalists who didn't want to leave the British Empire. There were a lot of advantages for businessmen to be part of the British Empire, which is one reason New York resisted. It was of course, an original Dutch colony, which had its own international empire. Um, and so uh, Burns makes this statement, which is pretty bold. He says the American Revolution was the most consequential in the history of the world. So I kind of, wow, okay, that's a good thing for us to study. And let's see if that stands up. But whatever, 700,000 people died. Then take the Civil War, all that. Take Vietnam. Take the bombings that took place not only in Vietnam, but here in America. Uh, and so he wants us to consider what we're facing now in comparison with those situations. So I asked Mr. Chat, how about this most consequential claim? And uh, Mr. Chat says, well, this popular sovereignty, there is something to that we advance the popular sovereignty for sure. And that's what's meant by the familiar phrase, the consent of the governed. That it's almost a cliche in our mind, but it's really important that the popular sovereignty had not been a thing. That governments have been based on warlords and warlords become kings, right? So it's been based on warlordism and uh, the big thing for America is uh, that it survived, the longevity. It's not necessarily the first in a lot of categories, but it's consequential because it survived and endured and bound itself to other advances in kind of a package. And that's where consequential comes in, the endurance. So Burns says over and over again, and this made it into Hamilton, turned the world upside down. So that phrase means something, and that out of this revolution, one of the most consequential things is the invention of the citizen. Yeah, okay, sure. They had citizens in ancient Greece, but remember, ancient Greece really only survived for 100 years. But here, a citizen was ordinary people. And in ancient Greece, I think over half of the population were slaves. And when we started our nation, at least in the north, it was less than that. There were some parts of the South where over half of the population were slaves. Um, so a lasting constitutional republic is the consequential part of it. Um, the other revolutions that were consequential, the French. So what did they add? Explicit class warfare, mass politics, and Mr. Guillotine made an appearance, and the upper classes lost their heads. There's a wonderful movie, The Scarlet Pimpernel, that really brings to life Mr. Guillotine and the feeling of what the class warfare was. The Scarlet Pimpernel is a Brit who disguises himself as a French nobleman who secretly helps upper class French people escape from the terror of the aftermath of the revolution. And the French Revolution, of course, its class warfare spreads across Europe. And Metternich, an Austrian diplomat, pulls together all the aristocracy of Europe for a counter-revolution. But Leslie Howard, who Aiko has an affection for. It also, our revolution inspired the Haitian Revolution. And they overthrew slavery. We didn't get around to doing that ever and had to fight another war to do it. We couldn't do it through the citizens meeting and thinking about it. The Russian Revolution, what did it introduce? Economic planning. Of course, it carried on class warfare. But they also contributed to decolonization. And as did America, especially with our European allies after the Second World War. I think Britain was eager to hold on to its colonies, but they did not get any support in that effort from America at all. And the 1956 war, where Israel, France, and Britain fought to regain the Suez Canal, America, Eisenhower did not back that. And in fact, used the leverage of what Britain still owed us in debt to get the colonial powers, Britain, France, and Israel, to retreat, to back off. Mr. Chad also lists the Industrial Revolution, which looks at the material benefits. And of course, we've had our own communications revolution in the last 30 years, and now we have artificial intelligence revolution. So, yes, Jim.
The irony. So the U.S. got other countries to decolonize while maintaining their own colony. And the UN helped all that, but the U.S. maintained that Puerto Rico is not a colony while putting all the independence people in jail and holding an election. So rather ironic U.S. policy there.
Yeah, yeah. So Burns invites all the people that are wringing their hands about the current state in America, and he's going to take that further by asking, when was the last bomb in America? Uh, where did it go off? Uh, how many people died? And he just pointed out that back in the 60s, some of us remember, uh, there were a lot of violent protests. Now there have been some violence, but not like in the 60s. Um, and he points out that it shifted after that to lone actors like Timothy McVeigh in Oklahoma City, the Boston Marathon bombing, which was the last big one, unless I'm leaving something out, which I'm sure somebody will correct me if I am. And he says there's actually some positive signs that we're pushing back against Trump. We always have in the lower courts. Supreme Court is kind of a mixed bag. And Congress has actually rebuked his unconscionable push for reparations of the January 6th crew. And he also nods to new talent coming onto the political scene. I think Tallarico is the best example. The guy in Maine is more of a mixed bag. And so he's very upbeat. I want to take a few moments to look at how blacks feel about American celebrations. Um, it's interesting. And it's, it goes back to our Constitution's failure coming out of the gate to eliminate slavery. And of course, that was a necessary compromise to get a constitution at all. So in 1826, since half of African Americans were still enslaved, all of the ones in southern states. And in 1856, 76, after the Civil War, that at least legally eliminated slavery, you had Reconstruction that was collapsing and yielded to institutions like the Ku Klux Klan and eventually the institution of Jim Crow. And I say institution because there were laws and the way things were enforced. So they're going to not be so celebratory at the first centennial. How about blacks in 1926? There was a resurgence of a Ku Klux Klan, and out of that, African Americans countered with the Negro History Week in answer to this resurgence of the Ku Klux Klan. I know a lot about the resurgence of the Ku Klux Klan in 1926 because it was centered in Indianapolis. The Ku Klux Klan had taken over the state of Indiana, had elected a governor, had elected a mayor of Indianapolis who resegregated the schools. resegregated the schools. Of course, the irony for me, and this has a little nod to basketball, is they created a new all-black high school. So the Ku Klux Klan mayor said, "Okay, you all gonna have to go to this high school called Crispus Attucks, the first casualty in the American Revolution at the Boston Massacre." And that high school, 30 years later, won two state basketball championships in a row, and produced an athlete, Oscar Robertson. So that was in the 50s when I was a teenager. So all this history and the irony of what had happened in Indianapolis came to an interesting head. And so there's an interesting documentary that was produced about this era of the Ku Klux Klan yielding to basketball championship called Keep On Cheering. So in the 1976 bicentennial, the civil rights movement had achieved major victories, but there was continuing inequality. And the African Americans countered with more alternative commemoration. I think the most famous one was in New York, where they celebrated the 5th of July, because that's where when slavery ended in 1827 in New York. So they were electing to celebrate emancipation rather than American independence. And most recently, this year, we could say the 1619 Project is an extension of protest. And the main idea centers on the first slave arriving in 1819 and contends that that's when America really began, when slaves arrived and started building, and they did all the manual labor. So this journalist wrote this essay, and it was adopted eventually by the New York Times. And they turned it into a project at the New York Times. And they looked at this critical view of America's history, and how African Americans were part of the patriot movement. And as important as the founding fathers in materially building the country, and even how Abraham Lincoln and the Union during the Civil War interacted with African Americans. And so you could say, beginning in 2019, that this is what some people would call peak woke. And of course, there was a counter reaction. Leading historians, such people as luminaries as Gordon Wood, they applauded, but they had strong reservations and wanted to enter factual corrections about what was essential to the beginning of the American Revolution. The New York Times stood its ground. refused to enter corrections. And then the Pulitzer Prize piled on and gave the woman who originated this, Hannah Jones, an award. Um, and eventually, the New York Times issued a clarification, and the, hold on just a second.
I got it. I got it.
Might be for me, in which case I'll have to declare a timeout. Oh, good. It's not for me. So it's smoldering along. But it has become ongoing projects, children's book, Born on the Water, and a TV Hulu series, which won an Emmy. So, and
40. Okay. Or mid-morning.
okay. So, how unique was the American Revolution? So it's just a different way of asking how consequential. So we've already hit on a lot of the points, but there's a few minor points asking how unique it was that I'd like to make. Was it the first to carve out a new nation from an existing colony? This is the first new nation to be a democracy or a republic. Was it first to have checks and balance? Is it really accessible? So Mr. Chat comes in again, and the main point is not unique in every ingredient, but highly unusual in the combination of all the ingredients. And again, the durability of it. And then, yes, other people have had written constitution and separation of power and checks and balances, but not in the durable form. And what's really unique was it's one of the first settler colonies that defeated one of the world's leading imperial powers and formed a new sovereign state that survived. So those are the aspects to add as to consequential. And so let's see, what's the point of this slide? We won recognition in 1783. After that, and maybe we inspired the Dutch revolt against Spain. The Swiss Confederation had a lot of the traditions that we often think are unique to us. In addition, many ancient medieval city republics. But for us, it was the packaging and the durability. Later inspired the Haitian Revolution, and then the American, Latin American independence movements. So for sure, the new America was not a democracy. We had slavery. Native Americans were never gained a franchise, not until 1924. And actually, not even in some places in 1924, everywhere by 1963 with federal legislation. Women got the franchise in 1920. And the founders themselves didn't like the term democracy, which they associated with instability. They preferred the term republic. and so checks and balance. There were other places with mixed government traditions. I mean, including Britain and in France, for Homer's sake, Montesquieu had presented these ideas philosophically during the Enlightenment. But again, the United States took that and made them unusually explicit and workable. So again, I'm making the point over and over again. It was what was unique was the package and the durability of a lot of these ideas and thoughts. So that's worth something, and might be something to celebrate July 4th. And I think that's going to probably be the place to stop. So my teaser for next week is George Washington. And Ken Burns just makes this point over and over again on how central he was. And he was unique for sure. So I'll end with one concept: exceptionalism. Is America exceptional? And I'd say from listening to and investigating this one last time, what's exceptional is the package and the durability. And Obama finessed this rather nicely. It's really annoying to other countries to hear when we refer to ourselves as exceptional. Obama says every country is exceptional. So hooray for Obama. This is where I'll start next week. Washington's Fabian strategy, which was very similar to Mao Zedong in China. Every guerrilla movement. We'll get to that, but and we'll start with the original Roman general who used these techniques to fight Hannibal 200 BC. So Washington. I will throw this open and invite your comments.
Can I say something?
Yes.
I looked up, the Japanese incarceration during World War II, and it said conducting genealogical research can be very challenging, even for the most adept researcher. And that was because so many agencies were involved. The records that were kept, there wasn't a master index. And there's like if you wanted to find out one person like Nakase, the coach for the Valkyries, you've got to know a lot of stuff about them that you put into the database so that they can identify that person and get their information. So it's not easy walk in the park to get all that.
Well, how about asking Mr. Chat? Homer.
Okay, real quick. The World Turned Upside Down, as you may know, was played by the band at the after the Battle of Yorktown at the surrender. Played by the English military band because they thought the world was upside down for the Americans to have defeated the British. On Scarlet Pimpernel, PBS did a program on that in 1982, also well worth watching. And then the book I'm currently reading, I think, has a lot to do with Black perspectives, is The Warmth of Other Suns. I mean, it's a few years old, but it's really good. And what I found especially interesting is her citation of quotes from a study of perceptions of African Americans who had moved north to terrible conditions in Chicago, Detroit, New York, etc., but consistently how happy they had made the move away from Jim Crow.
Yeah, yeah. There's one part of that book that deals with blacks who moved west uh,
Yes,
to,
LA.
to Los Angeles, and one of them was a doctor.
Yep.
And
Foster.
that's an interesting part of the book too. Yeah, Tom.
I'll let David go first. Mine might not be as pertinent to today's discussion. So let David go first.
Oh, I mean, I just thought about the number of blacks who moved to Richmond also for the war. But the thing I was thinking about, John, you didn't mention the kind of controversy about what's going on in the front lawn of the White House and how Trump is kind of co-opting. They initially called it like America 250, and then he's calling it like Freedom 250. There's all this internal fighting about who's controlling. Then he's selling like these coins for $12,000.
Coins.
I mean, it's just it's the grifting and the kind of co-opting of American values is stunning.
Breathtaking.
Yeah,
Breathtaking.
breathtaking. That's a good word.
You sound surprised, David.
Yeah,
No, but it seems no, I'm not. But at the same time, it just seems so blatant.
It
It's
is
just
like
so
yeah.
blatant.
No, I was hoping that one slide that I started with would kind of encapsulate that whole jungle. I just don't want, as Ramsey advised, don't get too deep into current events. And I would just say that one of the advances of America that has made us unique is uh, how we've managed to avoid what the founding fathers were afraid of, which was an autocracy. But the question is up for grabs at the moment, and you're right. But I decided to look backwards
No, there's
rather than the depression,
yeah.
and hope for the future.
I know that the one meme I saw was nothing signals the downfall of a civilization more than gladiatorial fights in front of the
White
palace,
House.
right? And I was like, oh my God, and then motorcycles doing flips and I don't know if anything, you mentioned the gay link with the Valkyries, but I thought there had been this whole attempt for the gays to buy lots of tickets and to show up shirtless on July 4th or something. I don't know if there's anyway. It'll be an interesting show.
Well, it is interesting that Valkyries, when they go on the road, do get some taunts from other fans in less tolerant cities.
Wow. Wow. Wow.
San Francisco is famous for its tolerance. Hooray! And that's why we were the center of AIDS, as Homer remembers from the 1980s. So I think we're proud, but we're reminded in other when the Valkyries go to other cities that other places are not so tolerant. Yeah, Tom.
So I got a backwards question here. Well, I'll just say I was born in 1953, so I can't remember too much from 53 to 63 because I was a kid then. But ever since after Truman, and that starts with Eisenhower, and I don't remember too much about Eisenhower. Has there ever been an American president who has not been involved in a conflict or a war? I mean, I can think of Kennedy and LBJ, and after LBJ Nixon, the Vietnam was going on, and then there was Afghanistan, and then there's Iraq, and then there's Iran. Has there ever been a president since including Eisenhower, who wasn't involved in some kind of war or conflict?
Uh, well, you have to go way back. Calvin Coolidge, I think, was sandwiched between World War One and World War Two. Um, of course, uh, uh, we had the Spanish American War, which Tyson will be teaching us about. Um, and I see Tyson's got his hand up, so let's buck that on. Has there ever been a president not involved in a war? Maybe Benjamin Harrison.
The question was
Since Eisenhower.
since Eisenhower.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't remember much for Carter or Reagan, for that matter, having been in major conflicts.
Well, the Iran-Contra, I don't know if that counts.
Well, that's not a major conflict, but in
No.
my opinion.
Well,
I mean,
Grenada with Reagan.
There you go. Yeah.
yeah, okay.
Well, I'll do some.
That was not Carter. So Carter may be the only one. I don't know.
Yeah, I'll do a little research on Carter and Reagan, but you think everybody else since Eisenhower, including Eisenhower, have been involved in a conflict or a war?
There was the Korean War for Eisenhower.
Well, I think Iran essentially by kidnapping our 400 embassy employees, that was a declaration of war for Carter, for sure. And arguably one of the main reasons why he lost.
That's right. Because he didn't go to war in response to it. He tried to free them with that raid, but he didn't go to war and he lost.
There was no declaration of war or troops on the ground.
That's right.
I don't know what the parameters of the discussion is,
but he lost his re-election because he was viewed as weak for not going to war with Iran.
Yeah.
Well, for allowing it to happen, yeah.
Yeah, so I guess I asked this question because, you know, in my lifetime, it's each and every president has been involved in a war, you know, or a conflict.
Yep.
Well, I think it's true that America, in that sense, is exceptional. I don't think there is another. There probably is not another state that can claim the honor of perpetual war. Not even China.
That's very strange when I think about it, you know.
So
the reason I raised my hand was about the blacks moving to Chicago and such, and I'm reminded of all the August Wilson plays that are been staged in Ashland, and this year they have Raisin in the Sun, which people are familiar with Sidney Poitier in the movie, but it portrays a black family in the South Side of Chicago. It's a big early civil rights play that Martin Luther King cited on occasion.
And August Wilson, a lot of his plays are centered in Pennsylvania, I think Pittsburgh.
Fences was with Denzel Washington was the movie. And yeah, you're right.
Yeah. Okay.
Don't you think that all of the conflicts that we face, though, is because we are on the top of the pile?
Well,
doesn't mean we have to police the world, which is temptation.
Yeah. I think don't we also have to deal with the fact that from day one you always brought the warriors along with the priests, and when you start coming up the Spanish and the Portuguese, and you always had the Father Sierra coming along with his military, and it goes back for I think for millenniums actually. When was it? The first, was it 6 BC or something like that with the first Alexander the Great, and they have uh, they I think they have the priests along with the
Yeah.
yeah. At any rate, Heiko, thank you very much for your comments on. I really appreciated those with the last week, and so
Yeah, that was good. I guess the question would be which of our interventions have been the least defensible? And I would say Vietnam. Uh, I would say the failure to see Ho Chi Minh as a nationalist rather than a communist. So our approach was the dominoes will start falling, and but if you look at Ho Chi Minh and his history, one of his heroes was Thomas Jefferson.
That's right.
An agrarian democracy was uh, more his goal than a communist state. Um, and on our side, it was LBJ. God bless him. He could have gone down, I think, as one of our great presidents. And we're all waiting for Robert Caro's last and final book on LBJ. It's 4 volumes up to the present, and each one is you learn so much. You learn so much about Congress, and in that you learn so much in the volume before about the Texas Hill Country, and Caro is 85, my age. And everybody's worried that he's not going to get his last book out at all. And he's been asked, his wife has always been his close aide. And he's explicitly said she's not going to finish it. So that's what we're worried about. But in the book that he's written so far, it was this Texas mentality, which unfortunately we saw echoed in W. Bush when it came to Iraq. But LBJ just wasn't going to be the first person to lose a war. That was just this macho take. I mean, not as bad as putting cage fighting on the White House lawn, but pretty bad. Yeah, Jim.
Sorry, I'll lower my hand.
Yeah, John, I agree. I agree with you there. I mean, if it weren't for the Vietnam War, LBJ might have gone down as one of the greatest presidents for as much as he accomplished.
Yeah.
Let me ask David about
well,
the citation about the gladiators. Where did that come from?
Oh, I saw it on some meme somewhere.
Yeah.
I don't remember exactly, but I thought, it's kind of telling, right? Gladiators on the front lawn. It's just,
It is.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean that sort of goes back to Roman Colosseum days, huh?
totally, totally. And John, it's interesting when you analyze what the worst war was. I mean, Iraq was pretty horrible because 1 million Iraqis died, many of them women and children. But so you have to, it depends on what, was it the most costly? The most costly in US lives, the most costly in total lives, the most costly in the reputation of the country, or the interplay of the world? I don't know. I don't know if I would agree that Vietnam was certainly horrible for American lives. We lost like 70,000, young men.
Well, not only losing lives, but all the damage that was done to returning soldiers.
Right, Right, the tale of shame and yep.
Agent Orange and post-traumatic syndrome and
PTSD is horrible in the Iraq War as well. Worse because we've learned how to save people, but the estimates are for every death there's 10 serious injuries, and for every 10 serious injuries there's 100 soldiers with PTSD. Something like 10 a day are committing suicide.
yeah, and coming back with drug abuse problems, you know.
Well, that was opium was out of Vietnam and cocaine was out of South America. Because that's what, yes, those two. You're right, Tom.
So, I mean, and the thing about the Vietnam War, I mean, I was a student then. The thing about the Vietnam War is it lasted for such a long time, long, long time.
Yeah.
Well, didn't the Iraq War last 20 years? We just didn't hear about it as much because we didn't lose as many people.
Yeah.
I don't know. No wars are great.
Yeah. So the other thing in measuring misery, of course, is morbidity.
Right.
But the other thing is displacement. So the number of people that have to pull up stakes, who among us wants to have to do that and escape to a safer environment? Refugees. And where did the refugees from Iraq go? Well, a lot of them went north, and eventually you got this pressure gradient into Europe. And what has Middle Eastern immigration done to Europe? And the rise of right-wing rejectionists and war has so many ripple effects. I'll ask Mr. Chat about to come up with a measurement.
One thing I remember from my life in Borneo was at that point in time, Sukarno had all of the, I think, 30 nations that were non-aligned. They were not aligned with, they were from all over the Americas and the Middle East and throughout Vietnam. And they had this group, and that was the Dallas brothers that kind of terminated that, and they brought in Suharto as because Suharto, that's where he was trained, but the U.S. military was training him, and that was if you want to read a book, it's called the Jakarta Method, and that was really about how that they turned the that alignment, and we were there during so-called confrontation, where I think we talked about that last week, but yeah, no, it's.
And then there's that book, The Year of Living Dangerously, or the movie, The Year of Living Dangerously. Is that about Indonesia or Sukarno?
Yeah,
I forget.
that was in Indonesia. Yeah.
That was Indonesia, but that was I mean, there have been a lot of wars. It'd be interesting, John, to see what Chad has to say.
Yeah.
So I looked it up. John Roderick White on Instagram said, "Nothing says dying civilization like gladiatorial fights at the Capitol for the emperor's amusement."
There you go.
It's on Instagram, Bruce.
Yeah.
All right.
Very good.
Interesting times.
All right. Yes. All right. Well, we'll continue next week with George Washington.
Okay.
Thanks, John.
All right. Bye-bye.
Great session.
Yeah. Very good.